Hey guys, you're gonna hear the proper intro to this video thing in a second, but this is Video Game Rambles. If you follow us on SoundCloud, we're gonna be using this channel instead just due to different complications. That's the gist of it. This was actually a deleted episode because of a time limit issue, so we're gonna upload this here now, and hope you enjoy. It's that time of the week. It's Video Game Rambles. I am Alberto. Joined with me as always is Merlin Weiss. How's everybody doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty great. How about you, Weiss?
My allergies are back, so I can't breathe, but what can I do?
Ah, I
Aw.
remember when I had allergies. Then I took lots of medicine for a very long period of time, and now I can function like a normal adult.
Real tempting right now.
Uh,
What's a
Getting
normal
pricked with
adult?
it's when you pay to get allergy tested and get 70 needles or so jabbed into your arm to figure out what you're allergic to, and then go back every week for like 8 months to get a shot weekly
That's
so that your immune system will stop freaking out.
that sounded like me back when I had my back surgery back in high school.
Yep, it's something like that.
Except they just wanted to. Anyway, um, on topic here with video games. We mentioned something last episode about the game where it's night sometimes and you have to build a fort. It's Fortnite.
Well, it's got a day-night cycle, and you do build forts. So yeah,
See, I
I
know
guess
what
that
I'm.
that segue does work.
I know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
despite the
So
game never
so
letting me
For
go into the
Fortnite
beta.
is currently in its founders alpha, which is basically a buy-in. I was very lucky enough to receive a code from a friend because they did one of the higher level buy-in tiers, which gave them codes of access. So I've been playing it and enjoying it a lot. It is by Epic Games. You might know them for making Gears of War and Paragon, and I think they have their hands in a few other things, but I don't really remember.
Aw, you don't mention Unreal? I'm sad right now.
I don't remember a lot of things. uh, but anyways, it is their fort building, horde killing, zombie survival adventure hero card game. It is like everything in one, and it does a lot of things really well. Like the building system is fun and interesting. Like you're constantly grinding. You can build various traps and whoozy what's its walls and stuff.
Admittedly, all those systems you just said sound like a lot of menus. Do they deal with that in a good way?
It's actually not that bad. You have basically four item slots. You have your pickaxe, which allows you to harvest the three basic, like building blocks of wood, metal, and stone. Then you have three slots for weapons, and then your F1 through F5 keys are your building keys. So F1 is a wall, F2 is a floor or a ceiling, F3 is stairs, so you can do multi-level stuff, and F4 allows you to build pyramids or slants or anything along those lines, which is basically like your flavor stuff, kind of. And then F5 is for traps, which you can put their floor traps, ceiling traps, and wall traps that you can craft based off of schematics that you get through cracking open pinatas or just finding them out in the world whenever you go on fun missions. And then,
S-
yeah.
So it sounds like a CCG from a high level of getting your characters, and orcs must die when you're fighting zombies with a little bit more of a building phase.
Yeah, so there are a couple of different mission types. There are like encampment and survivor mission types where you basically either kill hordes of monsters clustered in certain areas or save survivors. uh, Given a certain time limit for both of them, and those don't really have a lot of like building requirements to them. It's basically go around and explore the map that you spawn into and complete the quest in time. Then there's the other ones, which are retrieve the data, ride the lightning, and fight the storm, which are all your base building ones. Basically, you go and find the location. You either set up a thing or wait for a thing to spawn. build your defenses around it, and then hold it until time runs out, and then you win.
Sounds kind of neat then. I guess my big thing coming from sort of shooter background is that I'm always interested in the gunplay of it. Does that work out pretty well? Are the actual weapons fun to use and all that?
Yeah, the weapons are pretty fun. Currently, I have a setup of I have a hard-hitting pistol, I have a semi-automatic assault rifle, and then I have a machete. And that's my current setup. So basically, I have a good amount of like one-shot potential for low-level characters if I just hit them with headshots, which isn't that hard to do because they're husks, they're zombies, they're relatively slow-moving. There are a couple of exceptions once you get into the higher levels of things that have like charges or ranged attacks or whatever. So they're a little bit more of a pain to deal with, but nothing too crazy. So there's definitely variety. I mean, there are a couple of like explosive weapons as well. Like you can use an M80. There's a rocket launcher. There's some grenade launchers and stuff. It just depends on what schematics you find and what you unlock through like quests in the like pinata system, which would be their like chests for your card collection or whatever.
And I have seen that the pinatas themselves breaking open is one of the most adorably great animations as far as a chest opening goes in any game that I've seen.
Yeah, it's really satisfying. Because there are different levels of these. They're called party llamas, which is weird choice, but whatever. It's Epic Games. I mean, they threw a Korean pop star into a MOBA, so like they can get away with anything really. But what I enjoy about it uh, is like you can basically they have like a rotating queue of like real life money conversion that can get you like really high tier stuff. So it could be traps, it could be melee weapons, it could be ranged weapons, it could be survivors that you can use uh, to set up different squads that improve your overall performance out in the field. So there are a lot of different things that all work together, which is really nice. Like the only main gripe I have with the game is that the game's difficulty scaling is very very difficult. It almost goes completely vertical if you're trying to solo queue adventures.
So, like worse than a typical free to play wall, because this will eventually be a free to play game.
Yeah, I don't think it's worse than a regular free to play wall. What I think the problem is that a lot of the rate at which you get higher tier schematics for weapons, which allows you to craft and upgrade. You can upgrade schematics to turn the weapons into basically better versions. They have level bonuses at 5, 10, 20, and 30 and 40 depending on what like rarity level they are. But the biggest problem, at least that I'm facing, is that I have a blue hand. I have a rare quality pistol and an epic quality rifle, and I'm at a point where the enemy level is listed as 19. And if I try to solo, it will take me at least 4 headshots with the pistol or like 7 shots to the body with the assault rifle to be able to kill anything on my own right now. And I'm in the latter half of the first area, so I'm definitely not like all the way done with like the base level of the game. There's still a couple more like base defense levels that I have to do and whatnot, but it's really frustrating because those base defense levels, the difficulty for them is like where the spikes begin to happen. So that's where you typically get introduced to the new monsters. So like early on, like you do the first defense and you come across the basic husk, and then you come across the heavy husk. And the heavy husk just has more health and hits a little bit harder, but he's like slower, so it makes sense. Then the next defense you do, you get introduced to the first ranged enemy, and then the one after that is the next ranged enemy, and then the one after that you get introduced to the smasher, which is like the first of the mist horrors, which are the which are your more high end level. But that's Storm Defense 4, where at that point you're not even still really that well equipped, and you don't have a solid enough grasp of the game to be able to defeat it solo. Like it's very intense and expensive, which I like for that. But at that point, the difficulty just spikes up so ridiculously. It's like you're facing a cement wall, like that's completely smooth. Like you have no chance of gripping onto it by yourself, and it basically have to form a human ladder with the other 3 people you can queue with to get anything done, and that's the most unsatisfying thing about it.
Also, how much does it scale with player count then? Because it seems to me like the ideal is 1 to 4 players should be the same difficulty across the same thing. Just maybe more zombies if there's more players, that kind of thing. If you're going into 4 players, the optimal route,
The
it seems like
the
their scaling is off.
Yeah, the scaling does seem a bit off. One of the big things, at least from what I can tell, is that the amount of zombies that spawn seems to be constant throughout, depending on whether you're 1 player, 2, 3, or 4. But the variety of zombies does change depending on how many people are in your party. So like one person queuing is going to find a lot more of the like basic enemies, like the basic ranged ones, the basic husks, and the basic heavies, and then a couple of like the void mist monsters or whatever. Whereas if you queue with 4 people, you're going to come across these tiny little mini jumpers. You're going to come across these people that are wielding propane tanks that can blow up your structures. You'll come across giant husks that shoot lasers. Like so the difficulty ramps up in terms of the variety of the monsters, I think, more so than the amount that spawn, and it doesn't feel like that's how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you then have 4 players to very quickly burn down the actual dangerous ones and then go on from there.
Yeah, and then on top of that, a lot of the traps don't really feel that impactful because you're better off just building a large amount of walls that they have to chew through. That gives you plenty of time to shoot them down with your inefficient weapons, because leveling up them costs a lot of XP, and there's not a lot of XP in the game outside of getting them through the llamas or doing the regular quest progression. So I think that's a big factor too, is like I basically have 2 weapons at level 10, and that's my machete and my semi-automatic assault rifle, and even then that's not nearly enough to be able to clear out a majority of things. So that's complicated and frustrating, but I don't know. I it's still in founders alpha. I mean, it'll eventually move to like a more open beta, and then after that we'll move into free to play. So I hope that the feedback they receive from me and other players is definitely going to influence them to better look at the difficulty curve, because honestly that's the only real complaint I have about it.
Yeah, I mean, from sort of a working on a similar-ish game in terms of the fact that I'm working on a zombie wave shooter. The thing that we always try and within some flex room is to make sure that 1 to 6 players in our case, the experience across that is kind of however many players you can get together, whether it's you playing on your own, a couple of friends, whatever the case might be. The ideal for us is that any player count will feel the same across a difficulty. And of course, we're not a free to play game. We don't have long term progression, that kind of thing, where that introduces a lot of quirks that they're going to have to deal with. But it sounds like if they clean up some of the player scaling stuff, maybe flatten out the difficulty curve, extend it a little bit, something like that, they'll be in a lot better shape.
Yeah, I think really what it comes down to is that the way that the missions are set up is you have level 1 missions, level 5 missions, level 9 missions, and then level 15 plus missions, at least in the first zone. So like the rate of scaling is you do a lot of quests in the time it takes between like 1 and 5 or 5 and 9 and 9 and 15 plus. Like you do a fair amount of quests, but a majority of them are just like go to this mission, help the survivors and pick up 4 items, and then do one other mission, and then you just move on and you're like already at the next tier. So the quest progression system needs to be a little bit more drawn out. And even if if they just take out the fact that you can find like it's like search for 4 medical supply containers and play 2 level 5 plus missions, and that's one of the quests. If they made it so that you could only find a maximum of 2 in any map, then that would be a little bit better, rather than, oh, I found them all in one, but I still have to play another map just to get this part of the quest progression done.
I mean, admittedly, a lot of those sound like your typical sort of daily missions. Is that the level of depth they go to in their quest stuff, or is there anything more in depth than that?
There is an overarching story that basically follows you as the commander of this outpost, basically trying to figure out what happened, what caused the storm that created all of these zombie husks. Um, and to get a better understanding of exactly what's going on, help as many people as possible. Like the medical quest I just described is part of the main storyline because that gives you the healing pad trap, which allows you to basically place a pad down and then people can walk over it to get a healing. So like there's no like defined medic class, but there are ways to circumvent that because you have these different items. So like it makes sense in the confines of the story, like, hey, the difficulty is ramping up, so you need some kind of healing system. Here's a healing system, but you have to work for it. And that makes sense. And then there's also like the building of like the Ride the Lightning is you're sending off a guy to basically go up into the skies and explore the storm and gather data. Retrieve the data is basically you getting his drop boxes and processing them. So there is a story there, but the way that they go about it is so it's like minute details here and there penciled in among a greater understanding of this is the way that the game works. Here's how to do it, and we're just gonna continue to repeat this a lot, and that's about it.
Nope, it at least sounds like something I should keep my eye on, if not get
It, it
into it.
it's definitely worth checking out. I mean, I'm in it because I am kind of sucked into the story of like what the whole deal with the storm is, like what caused it to happen, where these husks spawning from, the big incident that led to the apocalypse or whatever is just kind of interesting to me. I'm a sucker for interesting stories, and they've kept it interesting even though it's only penciled in here and there into these certain slots within their overarching quest line of here's how the game works. So it's definitely worth looking into, and I highly recommend it. It's pretty enjoyable. Like the ninja class and the tank, the ninja assassin and the tank constructor probably be my two favorites so far out of the heroes to play.
Cool, good stuff.
Personally, I'm just mad that I got into the beta on PC or alpha, whatever, long time ago, back when it was first becoming a thing, and I couldn't get the launcher to work. And I contacted someone at Epic Games, and they never got back to me.
That's a bummer.
So yeah, that's the only, honestly, input I could say, which sucks. Because I really wanted to try it. My question is it gonna be that simple? Because on like console and stuff, because I know they already have a PS4 build. I know
Yeah,
we've been
they're
talking
they're
about.
planning it's for PC, PS4. Hold on, let me
I know
open
it's
up
on
the launch.
PS4. It's like in stores and stuff, like Walmart and
Yeah.
stuff. So I didn't know if like because you said like F4 does the different types of like walls, ceilings.
Yeah, they'll probably have a cycle system with the bumpers.
If not that, then a weapon wheel of some sort that you can bring up.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got enough there where the gameplay is, at least from a high level standpoint, pretty close to Gears of War that they can riff off of what they've already done in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah. So it's PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Mac. Weirdly enough, there is a Mac
Well,
client.
they're doing all the work with Apple on the metal rendering crap for UE4, so it's for them it's a perfect stand-in for the Mac.
No, it's true.
All right. I mean, usually when people come out with games for Mac, that's another weird thing on its own.
I
The
mean,
Mac to me seems more like a developer system rather than a game system.
God, I would never want to develop primarily on a Mac.
I mean, more
Not
like
that you can't.
art development than like full game development. But like art assets are
Yeah.
usually easier. Like GarageBand is basically free on any Mac or whatever.
And
So
there's some tools there that are I guess inherently now the ones made by Apple that are sort of the standards, the art stuff, my 3ds Max, that kind of thing, even sort of towards the 2D realm, Photoshop and that kind of thing. The comparison between platforms is pretty much gone. On the code side, I'd rather stab myself than have to work in Xcode. Like, I'm waiting for
Yeah.
Microsoft to finish their Visual Studio to Mac port, and then I can probably be pretty happy. But I don't know. Macs are nice. I've got a MacBook, but I wouldn't want it to be my primary at this point.
Yeah. Too
Anyway,
ingrained in PC.
that was a
Yeah.
sidetrack there.
PC
All right, Alberto, what's up
masters.
next?
You want to talk? Go ahead and go on about Yakuza. That's always interesting.
That's one way to put it. So yeah, I finished Yakuza 0 last week. It is let me see. I guess it's the 6th game that came out in the series. It's the first one on PS4. Given the name Yakuza 0, it is the prequel to the entire series. It sort of fills in the backstory of the main characters. Let's see. How would I TLDR this series? If you've ever played Shenmue, that's kind of the closest comparison I can have. It's definitely not like Japanese Mafia GTA. It is absolutely an adventure game with combat in it. And this one sort of pumps that up a little bit. There's the, let's see, non-spoilery story. You basically play two of the main characters in the series. You play them in side-by-side stories that kind of jump back and forth between the two, kind of weave into the story a little bit. You play like 2 chapters, one guy, 2 chapters, next guy, back and forth, back and forth. And you kind of pick up little story hints until the end game ultimately ties it all together. But unimportant, I don't want to spoil the story for people. The big thing is I would say the combat. Both characters have sort of multiple fighting forms that you can switch to in real time, and that was one of the big changes for Yakuza 0. And that's where a lot of the fun of the game comes in. One of the primary fighting styles, for example, is the Beast style, and it very much lives up to that name. It's a lot of huge attacks, wide-ranging attacks, and most importantly, you can pick up things in the environment, whether it's a traffic cone or an entire motorcycle, and then beat people over the head with it, which is super satisfying. Another one of the really fun fighting styles is a breakdancing style, which is very much all spins, flips, that kind of thing to clear out large groups of enemies. There's some other sort of side systems there that kind of tie into the adventure game idea. You get like a real estate system, buying up properties, making money off it. You get like a cabaret bar system that's actually a lot of fun, that plays a lot like something like Root Beer Tapper, the old arcade game. Let's see, what else sort of at a high level. I guess at a high level, the story itself is very much a classic sort of Yakuza movie plot. There's a lot of violence, a lot of crap going on. Eventually you have to kill a bunch of people, and TLDR, the end, you kill stuff. The really fun part about the game is that, as serious as the main story is, the side quests are totally tonally the opposite. At one point, I did a bunch of bowling to become friendly with the bowling shop owner, and then they gave me a chicken for winning a competition for getting a turkey in bowling, which is 3 straight strikes. They gave me a chicken that was called a turkey, and at the end of all that, it became a manager for my real estate business. So just complete nonsense like that. Let's see, other good examples. There's a bunch where you run into a guy called Mr. Libido that runs around the city masturbating in his underwear.
Same. I mean,
it happens. But there was another one where one of the main characters was helping out a girl and confusing her inability to speak. I don't know what it would have been in the original game, but in this one, it's very clearly somebody that's supposed to be Spanish trying to speak English. And the main character is mixing up her trying to get a visa with her trying to get a pizza. So he runs around the city trying to find her a pizza. while she's trying to get a visa to stay in the country. So the side quests are always a fantastic break from the main game, where the main story is just super serious, a lot of death going on, a lot of drama. And then you go and do side quests, and it's just nonsense about 95% of the time.
Fun fact, 4 strikes in a row is called a ham bone.
So what you're saying is they should have put in another side quest to get a pig.
Or get a pig and call it beef.
Give you a little mini cow.
But I haven't really heard much about the core storyline because I also have another friend that has played a lot of Yakuza 0 on the PS4, and he'll send me screenshots and all that. It's crazy. But yeah, I only see that side, all the side quest stuff. I mean, is it that much of a polar opposite?
I mean, the main story is very much classic sort of mafia story. It's sort of both characters have a very similar backstory in that they are ex-Yakuza that had left their family for some reason, are now trying to fight against the family. And I guess the common point that ties it together is that there's a girl that owns a piece of property that the Yakuza are trying to buy to take control of the city. So one side of the story is the main character trying to find the girl. The other side of the story is the main character trying to originally kill the girl, then protect her from being killed. So it's very much a sort of relatively classic mafia story, but it's definitely treated very seriously when you're going up against the Yakuza family. It's very much, the sort of classic protocols of, you're disrespecting the family, now we're going to have to kill you. But they're going to be fair about it. They're going to give you a fighting chance and that kind of thing. And then the side quests just go completely off the rails.
And that's, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between Mafia and Yakuza. Oh, you disrespect the family, but we need to kill you honorably. Meanwhile, us Cubans over here with our Mafia family's like, yeah, no, we're gonna just straight up murder you, either on the toilet, or if you're Italian, you kill them, and then you what's it called? You take the cannolis and leave the gun.
Shit, I'd take the cannoli all day.
I mean, cannolis are pretty good.
Why kill
delicious.
someone when you could have cannolis?
Or donuts. Yo, deep fried donuts.
Aren't donuts deep fried anyway if they're made properly?
But like, deep fried donuts.
Just saying.
Donuts that are like double fried.
I'll allow it. I mean, it basically becomes a carnival feast at that point.
I'm pretty sure it's like a Chinese thing. I'm not 100% sure. But like, it's heavenly. Powdered damn. If it wasn't 11 o'clock, I'd go order some right now.
Oh, you should order some anyway. And then you can sit here and watch video games the rest of the night. Yeah. But yeah, so Yakuza 0 definitely, a good one that, if for no other reason, it's worth playing it for the fighting style stuff. It's really satisfying beating somebody over the head with a motorcycle, shockingly enough. If nothing else, watch the story on YouTube. Find some of the side quests on YouTube because they're definitely entertaining too. What else is coming out in that series? The remake of Yakuza 1, the PS4 remake of Yakuza 1, I think comes out in 2 weeks, and then Yakuza 6 comes out sometime next year. So they're back to really pushing the series a lot. It's one of the few that Sega is really still standing up, which is, thank God, Sega is doing something. Although Sonic Mania comes out tomorrow too, so who knows? Maybe Sega's turning a new leaf.
Maybe.
And next thing you know, they're gonna make a Supersonic Racing 2.
Oh man, if they brought back Supersonic Racing, Sonic R was great.
Everybody Supersonic Racing.
Not even the best song, but I'll allow it.
It's not even the good song. It's just catchy.
Yeah, but Can You Feel the Sunshine is much better. But anyways.
I thought that was the same song.
Nope,
Wait.
2 different ones.
Rip. I never had the game.
Yep.
I had a Genesis, so can't talk about it much.
Come
Yep,
on, you got
two different.
Sonic All Stars on the 360. You can go play that one still.
I don't have a 360 anymore.
Let's just play Sonic Colors. That was a good game.
Do I still have my copy? Well, bro, you just give me a project tomorrow. Outside
You're
of
welcome.
editing this. And learning Final Fantasy TCG.
Oh God, here we go. That sounds like trouble.
That
It's different, but it's actually like once you like get the rules and start playing it, it's actually not that difficult.
is it like Pokemon different or is it like Magic different? Like what kind of spectrum are we talking here?
It's not. It's kind of Pokemon-esque. I haven't played much of Magic, so I can't really use any like Magic terms. Like I've only played like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon in my life. So the Final Fantasy TCG is probably the first thing I've ever done. It's Pokemon, in the sense that there's not so much a prize card system, but there is. You can only take so much hits. You can also you don't like if you take it, you're not attacking the opponent's card like Yu-Gi-Oh. You don't attack like say I summon Dark Magician. You don't attack like the opposing monster. You're attacking the player. And the player has the choice of either blocking it using their characters. They have either the choice of blocking with their characters, or they could just take the hit themselves to preserve their characters. Like they use all these Final Fantasy characters from Type 0 all the way to 13. So it's not it's kind of that aspect. I think people say it's kind of a fusion of Magic and Pokemon in that sense.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the cards here. A lot of them look sort of along the Magic line. Looks like they've got 3 series now. Do all 3 series play together? Because the 4 now.
Hold on. Well, they have the starter decks, so they have.
I guess where I'm leading with this, I guess, is the 3rd series itself doesn't look like it has that many cards. Do all of them play together to then sort of play combined decks?
You mean like Opus 3, right? That just
Yeah,
came out the other day. How do I explain this? Like, Opus is like some of the card sets and stuff, like the starter packs, the starter decks. Usually, what people do is they'll buy the starter decks because the starter decks are actually really good. Like, unlike Yu-Gi-Oh! And I guess Pokemon, they come with like play sets of almost everything. So if you want to like complete playsets and stuff and build a deck using like Opus 3, you're not going to be spending as much money. But you can still buy Opus 3 and any of the other series, excuse me, and to make your deck stronger. And it kind of goes by the Magic system when there's different colors that and attributes. Like there's a water, ice, lightning, or thunder. Don't know which of the two. Don't remember which of the two.
So it's like an elemental summoning requirement rather than just this card is of X attribute like Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever.
Yes, but unlike Yu-Gi-Oh, the attributes rare. Whoops, almost dropped my pen. Attributes rarely do anything, and like the only time like recently, and this is just referencing random card game stuff, but the only real time in recent history where in recent Yu-Gi-Oh like attributes matters is when the True King archetype came out where you have to destroy different attributes, or recently the World Chalice, which you need 2 different attributes to do different links. I mean, it's weird, but it's more in lines of Magic where attributes and colors of your cards actually matter. I guess you can make the same assumption for people that are just getting into Dragon Ball Super, which that's another card game that's getting super popular because of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, I know Dragon Ball used to have a card game, but it kind of died out when it went into its deep dark slumber after the Buu saga ended. Well, after GT ended, technically, but
It's coming back, and it is a force. A lot of the people that I know that are playing Final Fantasy are also playing Dragon Ball Super. Like some of the favorite decks are like Vegeta, Brawly, and what's his name, Beerus.
Yeah.
And there are super money cards and those like what 2 sets that they've come out with already. So, but regardless, Final Fantasy TCG is kind of like that, where you need to use like different, at least one of the same attribute crystals to summon or activate a back row or activate a summon and stuff like that. And you're more or less not attacking like different characters, you're attacking the person. So there's a lot of strategies like, do I want to take the hit, do I block, do I go in the break zone? It's more strategic outside of Yu-Gi-Oh, where you just summon Dark Magician, declare direct attack. Duel Links, everybody.
Yeah.
Duel Links. Which I didn't actually mean to go on the Final Fantasy TCG thing. It was a meme, and then all of a sudden we got interested.
Sorry, I'm a sucker for card games. I downloaded the Elder Scrolls Legends app on my phone, and I've been trying to figure out a build that can work with the new cards that they added with the Skyrim pack. So there are a bunch of shouts that you can use, and there's a bunch of synergy with that, like shouts and dragons and stuff like that. And I'm trying to figure out a deck that I can make work. But at the moment, all I have is a very joke of a deck that uses Jarl Balgruuf, where his card grants a special win condition where if at the start of your turn all of your lanes are full, you win the game. So basically, if you have 8 cards in play where one of them is him and then you have 7 others, you win at the start of your turn. So there's a solid degree of like play required to get that to work.
Oh my god, it's Exodia.
But it's not Exodia per se. It's some silly gimmick, kind of like what Hearthstone had with their Eldritch, their Old Gods pack and whatnot.
But it's Exodia.
Kind of.
You win the game. And it's also very gimmicky. So is Chainburn, which actually won this year at Yu-Gi-Oh! Worlds, which is funny.
I mean, that's Konami finally getting into esports.
I know. Okay, can I talk about that? Because I know that wasn't what we're going to talk about, but it's so
Go for it.
It's
Go
so
for it.
hilarious. So like we're running kind of high on time, but who cares? Konami is this year they try to more focus on the esport and the trading card world championship. Like last year it was Orlando and it was kind of hype. It didn't feel like the proper stage. Like I don't know, say like the Smite or League of Legends, where you got this huge packed stadium and everyone's like, oh, right. Last year there wasn't anything like that. Past couple of years it wasn't like that. So this year it was actually held in Japan because last year was in Orlando for whatever reason. But that was really loud. Holy crap! I wasn't messing with my Yu-Gi-Oh deck. You were. Oops. But like. So, like, if you watched the stream this past weekend, it had the Konami esports, and I'm using that in quotes, because it's, for all intents and purposes, very loose quotes. The only esport quote that it has is Duel Links, which, for those who don't know, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Mobile, super dumbed down. You have 3 monster zones and 3 spell and trap zones. You start off with 4 instead of 5. And you basically play Yu-Gi-Oh! But they had that championship, and while the the main world championship with the new mechanic with the extra monster zone, which I can go into that for a long time. But the short version is when you try to summon extra deck monsters, you have to put it in the extra deck zone instead of anywhere on the field. So placement actually matters, but nonetheless, they tried to. They wanted to flip flop, right? I mean, esports do actual like game companies where they have more than one esport to offer, like say Smite, and this is just something high. We all have something to do with Smite and high res. They'll have like one stage be the main Smite, and then off stage they'll go either into they'll show off like the console, they'll show like whatever new game like Jetpack Fighter or Hand of the Gods or Paladins or whatever. They'll show little bits and pieces of that, even though they're two separate events. Konami tried to do the same thing with Duel Links, except they did not have enough content, and that's why they failed. They had like half hour to an hour duels back when they're playing like normally the whole like the actual card game and not the mobile game, which is cute because everybody's on like their tablets like Hearthstone. And because this was in Japan, everything was in Japanese. So if someone that's newer to the game tries to look back at the old cards and they don't know what the cards did, well, it was all in Japanese, and they only had one set of commentators. So these commentators had to be knowledgeable about everything on both that meta, because Duel Links and the actual card game are two separate beasts with different metas, different rules. Excuse me. A lot of gassiness in my chest. But like a lot of it felt forced, and it just felt scrambling for things. And not only that, because these duels lasted like 8 minutes per match, not even like a game, it was per match. That's how quickly those duels went. Not because like it's dumbed down version, but like it's all online. You're playing with like lesser things, so things tend to happen a lot more quickly. So they would have an hour to at one point 2 hours of nothing to show. Not even showing like videos for like the new set, not even showing how like teaching people how to quote unquote new mechanics. And it's like, why even make this whole big quote esport event and not like show anything else for 2 hours?
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I had no idea they were even doing it this weekend, and given it was the international, that seems like a bad idea. I also had no idea that Duel Links had even come out in the US, which shows about how much that they've been advertising that. And that's relative to like me playing a lot of TCG slash Gachapon style mobile games. I've been playing the hell out of Fire Emblem forever. I'm playing Fate Grand Order now. I was playing Final Fantasy Brave Exvius before it, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links should be in my realm of games I'd play on mobile, and I had no idea it was even out in the US.
It's been out for a while, but first things first, who are your two servants in Fate Grand Order right now?
I couldn't even tell you because I literally played like first couple hours and was sort of switching around between everyone. Then Fire Emblem did a huge patch, and I kind of got completely distracted.
Oh man, I just played Fate like not even an hour ago before we started this, so I'm sad now. Be-
Like, the thing that confuses me about Konami esports is that after the whole Metal Gear Solid thing with Kojima, they made it pretty clear that they wanted to like step away from like games as a whole and go back to that more arcade style that they got started with. So it's weird that they would be trying to push it, and it's even weirder that they would be pushing it at literally the most inopportune time ever, considering that Dota 2 International is like pretty much the like largest like any kind of championship for any esports, like consistently. Like every year it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So like trying to compete with that on any kind of scale just seems like a mistake. And then having it be Konami trying to push it just seems very confusing.
I mean, to be fair, they also just announced a new Metal Gear game not too long ago. So I think at this point they've proven that they're full of shit.
They
Yeah.
It's
Are we sure it's not another pachinko though?
No, it's a survival action adventure. It's not a Metal Gear Solid. It is a Metal Gear something fits into the bullshit storyline somewhere. But
Yeah.
point being, right, it's they're clearly back into game development, and it was a
Yeah.
load of shit.
Metal Gear Survive.
I mean, Konami's been always full of crap because it's weird. They didn't stream for their quote-unquote esports. They didn't stream any of the past YCSs or qualifiers for the past like 3 events, right? To all of a sudden like finally streaming Worlds. Like, isn't that kind of a big jump? We don't even know. It like took a crap ton of resources just to figure out who qualified in both like Singapore, Japan, America, Canada, Europe, Italy, like those, Mexico. Took a lot of effort just to find out who qualified. Because they weren't streamed and they weren't like a lot of publicly known except on like Reddit.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the World Championship supposed to be in London this year, and then they moved it because of all the bombings going on?
I believe so. I know they had one event scheduled in like Northern Europe. I don't even remember. London was a place. The time difference makes it kind of hard for like this to stay up and actually watch those matches, even if they were streamed. But regardless, I don't think that that was gonna be streamed either, just because of like people trying to tell Konami what they want TCG wise and what needs to happen, and Konami just like not listening.
I mean, I guess I kind of suspect that if they had to move the event at the last minute, then streaming, especially a very quickly put together streaming setup, is probably kind of their backup situation of, okay, we're gonna have this big event in London or whatever. None of these people can go now. We clearly don't have time to plan a huge event in Japan. Let's figure out something. It seems like streaming might have been to some extent experimental for them, but also a good backup.
I mean, the thing is, like, they still looked like a big production. Like, the stage, like, where the duels were going on, looked beautiful. It reminded me of, like, that LCS type of stage, except there's, like, a table. But, and the issue is they didn't have multiple tables set up for recordings where they'll do like one live and they'll record another and have a different set of commentators do it. They only had one set of English commentators. I don't know if the Japanese had a better setup, but the Americans, and probably they were doing the Europes as well, setup was terrible. And the 2 hours of they showed like 9 events in 9 hours with numerous hour to 2 hour gaps. And that's like the issue that not just myself but a lot of people obviously had.
Well, growing pains for them, I guess, if they're really getting A, back into games seriously, and B, into sort of large streaming esports events.
I mean, this isn't the first time they've done it though, which is the weird part. Which is why everyone's like, Konami, what are you doing?
I don't understand it.
Because YCS used to be streamed and they used to be pretty good. Like, they would talk about not just like an advertisement for the new set. They'll talk about what's good in the new set, how to play with the new cards in the new set. They also had different duels set up, recorded and ready. So like, say the live feed of Table 1 was done, they'll cut to like Table 3 with the same set of commentators, but it's pre-recorded, so like they don't have to worry about like live errors and stuff, and it's edited like on the fly, or there's that little delay, so they don't have to worry about anything. They didn't even have that set up. They only had one table of recording for both Duel Links and for the main Yu-Gi-Oh. And by the way, they had different what's it called? It wasn't just like the one main card game too. It was the different levels. So we had the Dragon, which is like the younger adult teenagers and stuff. That's like 13, 14, 15, that age group, which was the Chamberlain guy from Canada, which is really neat. But like then we also had the Master, which I'm using. Master is something they use in Pokemon, so I'm gonna use that. The main TCG, they only had one setup for each, and they flipped flopped back and forth between the Dragon and the Master at the same table, the same arena. They didn't have two separate setups or anything. So they couldn't even cut back and forth between that. They had to do one live and then later the other one live. And that's when that 2 hour gap is when people were moving everything and stuff.
Yeah, that's messy.
Which the London stuff, what happened so long ago, that when they switched to being in Japan, they should have had this enough leeway to prep for these things. Like, the London bombings and attacks happened in, what, March?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit.
So they still had, like, 3 or 4 months to plan and prep around it. It's probably more so than that. So, like, I don't want to, personally, I didn't want to hear the excuse of, oh, we didn't have enough time to prep. Y'all had plenty of time to prep. And the execution was poor. Especially comparing to previous, like, YCSs and Championship Series and stuff like that. They didn't stream any of the WCQs that were, necessary to find out who went to Worlds. And it was just overall terrible. They even banned one of the main freaking American stars. And then 3 days later unbanned because they realized, like, views were going to go down. Even though, like, what he did wasn't all that serious, and it wasn't even his fault, it was his girlfriend's. So shout out to Billy Break.
Oh well, maybe they'll get their act together next time then.
God, I hope so.
There's always next year.
I mean, next week is already the new season, so
I don't know what the tournament cycle is for Yu-Gi-Oh, so I couldn't tell you, but
neither do I, mainly because I'm never gonna compete. But, like, stuff like that is still pretty funny. Also,
yeah.
Last note. So the past 2 years we've had the same champion in Yu-Gi-Oh! In the main Master Series, right? He actually got DQ'd on Saturday during the last match for qualifiers for slow play.
Wow.
Rip.
That's messed up.
Well, like, he's gotten, like, a whole lot of warnings, and then he goes on, like, social media on Twitter and basically said the judges had it out for him, saying that it was American judges and stuff like that.
Never a good idea.
Yeah.
That was funny.
If you want to contest a ruling, don't argue about it on social media, because it just makes it seem like you're kind of an emotional idiot about it.
Kind of a salt factory.
Yep. If it feels good, don't tweet it. Words to live by.
I mean, you're not wrong. But anyway, I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Right?
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot there.
I didn't expect to go into that TCG kick.
That's how we roll. That's why we're video game rambles and not video game planned.
Yeah.
So wrapping this up, I am Alberto with Merle and Weiss for Video Game Rambles. Hope to see you in the next episode. Good night, everybody.
Take care.
Take it easy.